that's what VJ's Home System is really all about. It's about operating and maintaining at the highest tempo so I can reproduce success over and over with zero mishaps.
Hello and welcome to episode 75 of the Smart Agents Podcast. My name is Michael Walter and I'll be your host. In today's episode, we're joined by Andrew Valdez Johnston. Located in Hampton Roads, Virginia, and actively serving in the United States Navy, Andrew is building a growing real estate business. Throughout our conversation, Andrew shares how he got his start in real estate, how his time in the Navy has shaped the way he does business, and he also explains what he calls VGA's Home System model. Now, before we get on to the day's featured interview, make sure to subscribe to the Smart Agents Podcast. You can find the show on all major podcasting platforms such as Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and now Amazon Music. Also, as you can see if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to subscribe to the Smart Agents YouTube channel. Click the bell to get notifications when each new episode is uploaded. And lastly, if you or somebody else on your team has an awesome story or real estate tips to share with our community, send us a message at feedback@smartagents.com. We're always on the lookout for new stories to share. All right, let's get on to the day's featured interview with Andrew Valdez Johnston, where he talks all about his systematic approach to the real estate business. You know, if you could, the way I like to start everything out is if you could just introduce yourself to me, where you're at in the country and how long you've been in real estate.
Perfect. Yeah. So my name's Andrew Valdez Johnston. We're based out of Virginia Beach, Virginia. So Hampton Roads. Our brokerage is Hewlett and Associates Realty. My team is Valdez and Johnston Real Estate Group. So,
right. And so you actually, you are currently enlisted in the Navy. Is that correct?
Oh yes, definitely.
Yeah. So tell me about that. How long have you been in, and how did you end up in Virginia?
Well, I've been in the military for about 8 years. I joined right out of high school because I wasn't mentally ready for college, and I didn't do too well in order to make that transition. And so like everyone else, we all go to Great Lakes and we go through our 8-week boot camp. And in my case, I suffered the third coldest winter in Chicago history when I was there, right? And so like medium temperature was 18 degrees, and like it would fluctuate from 18 degrees to -19. So, I mean, if you know the Windy City, it was ridiculous. And so from there, I went to school. I got top graduate from, I guess, before I go to my ship, and that allowed me to gain the rank of E4. So I started from an E1, moved my way to E4. And then when I got on board the USS Ramage, I eventually made the rank of E6 in about 4.5 years. Mm-hmm. So
awesome. Yeah. So from there, where did this passion for real estate, and how did you end up getting into real estate all the while, being enlisted?
So I kind of fell on it. Like my life has just kind of been, the pieces have just been falling into place. Right. And so in high school, it actually kind of started weird, like a little entrepreneurial. Right. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of Verve before. It's like a multi-level marketing thing. Anyways, I flopped. I definitely flopped on there. Right. And but in turn, my dad was always on my back about, hey, you need to read something. You need to get into the habit of reading. Right. And of course, okay, now he's forcing my hand. And so we went to Hastings, which is a bookstore in Washington. And I bought a book called Why A Students Work for C Students by Robert Kiyosaki. And I like I told you before, I wasn't the best in high school. So it kind of the title just drew me in. Right. And it was all about financial literacy. And that just kind of piqued my interest in learning about financial literacy. So, I went through Chicago, got to my ship, and eventually we got on deployment. And so a lot of guys bring their PS4s, their little computers, and they play games on their off time and stuff like that. I was more dedicated on trying to learn more about financial literacy. right? It wasn't real estate yet, right? But financial literacy, what I'm going to do with this money that I'm getting, because I had no idea what to do with it. And so I just bought a whole bunch of books, right? I brought my book, Why A Students Work for C Students. I bought Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I bought books talking about flipping houses. I bought books about the stock market, and the Rich Dad, Poor Dad, it kind of really started getting me into that focus of real estate. And then it just I just kept on getting resonated with what he was saying. And then other books that I read. And then I guess he has like a training platform called Rich Dad Education. And so I kind of got involved with that a little bit. And that just started kind of scaling my my knowledge.
Right.
And so,
right. Yeah. So then, as you were in Virginia, did you start investing first, or how did you get into the real estate side of things?
Right. So I started investing first, right? So as soon as we got back from deployment, I was an E4 and I got a roommate, right? He was a higher rank than me. He was using all his BAH on this really nice apartment and in Chesapeake, and he would rent me a room for $200 a month. Right now, I wish I had rent for $200 a month, but back then when my money was lower, right, it just made me sick every time I gave him $200, right? I couldn't get over it, right? And so I got into bigger pockets, and I kind of learned this concept of house hacking, right? And so really I started trying to figure out how can I reduce my living expenses, because majority of us, our living expenses around 30% of our income. And so I was like, well, man, if I could save my BH and stuff, then I'd be golden. And so I did that. I met this woman called Kathleen Murray. She's a real estate agent for the brokerage that I work for now, right? She's a retired commander, and she helped me buy my first duplex. And in turn, I learned that she actually worked with Robert Kiyosaki and his wife, and they did deals together and stuff like that. And so she really became like this mentor to me, right? And I bought that. We went on another kind of deployment, and I came back. I bought a fourplex because I knew I should have got bigger as soon as I bought that duplex. And then a little bit down the road, right now, I'm invested into a dental office.
Right.
So
cool. So, when it comes to the real estate side of things, what has it been in the Navy that you've been able to kind of translate to your real estate business?
Okay. Well, I think for like everyone to kind of get the aspect, I can think of three, and then I'm going to kind of give like a military example, and then like a real estate example, right? So I would say like curiosity is definitely one of those things that help me. So like when you're in real estate, you have to be curious about the market. You have to be curious about the overall economy. You have to be curious about your client, but most importantly, you have to take action on those curiosities, right? And in the military, from day one, the boot camp, all the way until you transition out, you have to be curious about learning how to be a leader. I mean, when you're 18 and you have really no experience, you have to be curious on how and why people do the things that they do. Once you get on board, you have to be curious on the programs that they have on board, learning how to make rank, how to learn efficiently. It's not knowing just about your job, but you have to learn and be curious on what soft communication skills are. And I would say the second thing is adaptability. So in real estate is you have to know about our new technology, the new laws that are being in place, and then you have to be able to adapt and learn quickly on, however the market is going. And so knowing your process is going to help you with those effects. And so with the technology, for example, like the NFT space, people are buying houses on the metaverse, how does that affect me? Titling, right? They're thinking about putting titling on a blockchain, right? And so it's like, dang, how does that affect me? How does that affect my processes, but I don't know too much about that, but I know that I got to adapt to it here pretty quick on whatever we're doing. And in the military, it's not unheard of for something to go wrong with a ship that was supposed to go on deployment. And then now your ship is next in line, basically saying like, hey, buddy, you guys are all 300 of you guys are going on deployment. You guys have about a month to get ready and get your family situated and be gone for 6 to 9 months. That's not unheard of. Right. And so I guess finally persistence would be that third thing for me. So in real estate, every day you have to show up, right? You have to show up and be 110%. So I'm not saying you have to be the best agent, right? But you have to show up and you have to care, right? That's what persistence is. And then for the military, it's kind of the same thing. Every day you have to show up because your shipmates, like your people that you work with, are really counting on you. Like in my case, my MOS or my military related job is a damage controlman, right? And I work on basically the fire system on board. And then we also go ahead and train all the other sailors that are on board. So if I mess up my maintenance or my team messes up that maintenance, and all of a sudden we have a fire, right? And that piece of equipment doesn't work, I just dropped the ball. Or someone that works on our weapon system, we're in the middle of something and now the weapon system doesn't work, we kind of all drop the ball, right? And so you have to be persistently engaged with whatever you're doing.
Right. Yeah. I like that, the idea of being persistent because, as you go along, throughout your real estate career, you're going to have multiple clients at the same time, and being able to keep up with each one on their different timelines, is really important. And if you're not persistently keeping up with each and every one of them, you can really kind of get yourself into a jam and make yourself, not look all that great in their eyes. So, I think that's a really important one to key in on. One of the things you're doing is the VGA Home System. Tell me about that.
Yeah. So earlier this month, I guess last month in December, I kind of contributed to this article at Forbes. It got published January 3rd. Basically, they asked me about my business leadership keys that helped me in 2021, right? And I told them trust, knowledge, accountability, and transparency, right? And so VJ's Home System is based on all these principles, right? It provides education like no other agent has. I showcase transparency by giving you all my checklists for the sales process, the pre and post inspections, cleaning, staging, all my resources. So all my SOPs, not little ginky guides, like real SOPs, right? These total probably about over 250 individual actions that I will be performing during our transaction, right? And so me making that available is allowing you to hold me accountable if you so do choose, right? And then also it just builds that trust in my business with my clients, because the things that I'm sharing with you are, I would say, niche to a client, but they're not niche to a real estate agent, And so me sharing that with you is just me giving you, look, this is our game plan, right? This is exactly how we do things. And so on the education part, right, I've written about 10 ebooks, right? I'm not going to list all 10, but I'll list, the popular kind of 5 that I think is beneficial. So the military landlord is a very popular one. What to know about your finances is probably the most important one, and my favorite, financial literacy, right? A guide to selling your home, for sale by owner. Is that right for you? Finding your new home, house hunting tips, and pitfalls. So with a guide to selling your home, it's not just a guide, like a regular guide. I'm literally showing you from an agent's perspective on exactly how you're doing it, right? And that kind of runs in tangent with the for sale by owner. I tell you all the work that you're going to have to do in order to sell your house by yourself. I give you the tools and the keys and everything. If you want to do it by yourself, you can, right? And that's what it's all about: the transparency, the education, and then accountability.
Right. So, what was it that really made you want to go down that route with your real estate career and wanting to be that educational, force in really, being able to provide your clients with all this information?
Okay. I have to reflect back to my experience in the Navy. So all the way from boot camp, all the way until you get to a ship. If you're military and you're in the Navy, you're going to understand what I'm saying. And if not, just stay tuned. All the way from boot camp till you get to a ship, right? There's all these trainings and process, right? But they're always, personally for me, it was always missing just a little bit, right? Just missing that little extra thing, right? And I always got fed, you're going to learn it into the fleet. You're going to learn your job in the fleet. You're going to learn your job in the fleet, right? And that happened to me all the way until I got to my ship, right? And right when I thought, I was like, oh man, I'm here at the fleet. I'm going to start learning all this stuff, blah, 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 blah. People were just like, nah, didn't want to train you, didn't want to show you how to do things. They wanted you to just do the grunt work of everything, which I deserved at the time, but nonetheless, it kind of go hand in hand of, you got to still teach me. You still got to do all those things. Right. And so I never got any of that. Never. Right. And so I had to dive deep into instructions, into tech manuals and learning all this stuff. And overall, I think it benefited me a lot, but nonetheless, not everyone has that drive of like wanting to get it done, wanting to do it. Right. And so I wanted to go this route because I wanted to at least give you the opportunity. I can't force this stuff down your throat, but if I give you the opportunity, it's not that I didn't want to teach you. It's that you just didn't want to learn. Right. And I have the resources here and I'm making myself available to talk about these things if you're interested.
Right. So what was the process like, when you were starting to put together these ebooks and really kind of decide on what your topics were going to be?
Well, I'm going to have to kind of explain something that the Navy really, really taught me. So if the Navy really taught me anything, it's how to implement systems, right? And so I'm kind of been like obsessed with systems, I guess, right? And Navy also taught me what transparency looks like. I don't know if you know, but in the Navy, if you're a captain on a ship and you do something wrong, you get fired, everyone knows. It's on the Navy Times. It gets shown to everyone. This is why you got fired. This is what happened, blah, blah, blah. Transparency all the way from the top down. And it doesn't matter, right? And so in order for the Navy to run, efficiently all over the world and keeping everyone like in the know, our systems have to be pristine, right? So we must be able to achieve the same results over and over and over. So for example, in the Navy, we do this thing called a RAS. It's called the replenishment at sea. And I'm going to give you a condensed version of it. But if I paint you this picture, right, it's picture two ships, a supply ship and a destroyer. The supply ship is 750 feet long and the destroyer is about 500 feet long. They are both heading on the same course. They're both going about 12 to 14 knots, which is about 15 miles an hour. And in between them, they're about 150 feet away. Okay. So cool. They can drive close to each other. All right. Well, let me stack it on there. So this RAS, right? This is a window of opportunity for our ship to refuel, take parts on, take food supply on, send any mail out. And so we're doing all these operations, right? But if we take another step back, right, what's really happening? We're having the helicopter from the supply ship come on over, drop supplies on our helo, right? And then we have in the middle of our ship, we have this thing called a king post, where we have this wire connected from the supply ship, 150 feet long in between, right? And they're sending pallets down, right? Sending pallets down at the same time as the helicopter. And if you come more forward on the ship, they have another, essentially, so everyone understands, a gas line, a diesel line, right? That's feeding our ship F-76, which is hundreds of thousands of diesel fuel, right? All of this is going on at the same time. And these aren't like little, like tiny evolutions, right? These are all hands. Everyone's helping, everyone's moving, right? And then you're doing this probably about once or twice a month when you're out at sea. How do you do all that with zero mishaps, no injuries, no injuries, right? Systems. We have systems all the way down from every little tiny thing, right? And that's what VGA's home system is really all about. It's about operating and maintaining at the highest tempo so I can reproduce success over and over with zero mishaps, right? Maintaining that white glove level of service for my client to ensure that they're informed every step of the way, knowing what the next step is. It's kind of funny. I ordered pizza the other day, and I kind of like to compare it to Domino's tracker. Have you ever seen?
Yeah, you can see the little how everything's working.
Right? So like in Domino's tracker, right? You as soon as you hit the pay button, it's like Mike received your pizza. Mike is making your pizza. Your pizza's cooking. Mike gave it to Ross, and he's on his way to your house. Okay, Ross is about 5 minutes away. Ross is around the corner. Ross is at your doorstep. Hey, here's your pizza, right? And we're just talking about pizza, but look how in depth they went. And so what's nice about, VGA's home system, and I suppose Domino's tracker, is that you have all this at your service, but you don't have to use it. I have this so I can be transparent, so you can trust my system and you can allow me to basically serve you. And the same thing with Domino's. As soon as you make the call, they're going to drop it off. They're still going to deliver. They didn't need to tell you all those things, but it's that extra level of service, right? And in our case, it's making it all the way to the closing table.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's just, one of those things with any, as society goes, all the information's right at our fingertips. So the more and more information you can provide to your client, regardless of that they use it, that's just what's expected now because of so many different, like you said, the Domino's. If Domino's is doing it for a pizza, then, when somebody's making one of the largest transactions of their life,
it's like, why aren't
you? Right. Yeah. So what's been the reaction, when you are working with clients and, all this, the service that you're providing for them?
Yeah. So, in my experience, it's really like, at the end of the day, my client is my boss, right? We work for our client, right? And it's my fiduciary duty to show them exactly what I'm doing and to represent them at their during the transaction, right? So if they want to take more of a manager role, right, I'm going to feed into that. Cool. Sure. Yeah. You want to know what we're doing, how we're doing it, what the next step and all that stuff is, cool. Right. But if you more have a personality of, hey man, I trust you. You got it. I believe you got it. And they want to take more of a step back approach, then that's what it is. They let me do my thing. And so my experience is the guys that are really, really hands-on and need to feel that they're in control, especially for say like a family of four, right? And this is their first big transaction. Usually both of them are like, oh, what's next? What's next? Right. And the transaction goes so much easier and so much simpler once you've already told them what's going on. Right. So when it's like, oh, we were supposed to close on Friday, and you're like, oh, we're actually going to close on Tuesday because we messed up. And then they're like, oh, are we not going to get the house? Is this not going to happen? Right. They start freaking out when we just changed a simple date from Friday to Tuesday. But we have to realize and sympathize that they've been going on this roller coaster for 30 days, and this is one of their only transactions that they're going to do for the next 5 to 7 years, statistically, or this is going to be my 5th, 7th transaction, for the quarter or whatever it happens to be. Right. And what I didn't really talk about was this also allows us to be, I think it's kind of an underrated feature, but it kind of gets my client and I ready for the real estate wars. And if you're a buyer right now, you understand exactly what I'm talking about, right? I mean, look at the inventory, right? It's killing buyers that aren't prepared, right? And I'll say this, your family does not deserve an agent that's shooting from the hip and that has no plan, especially when we're talking about the big three, one of the big three: food, water, and shelter, right? So at our office, I mean, we understand the importance of having a team, having systems in place. In our office, we have an in-home lender with Planet Home Lending. So you can walk in and you can talk to either Jennifer or Kevin Franklin. We have an in-house titling agency. You can go and talk to Beth. We have the resources in place for your home insurance, for your home warranty, for your home contractors, all at your disposal, right? Because we believe in these systems to have, and we know that speed kills, right? So the faster we can get all this done at the shortest amount of time, it's going to be the best result for our client. And then we have a happy client.
Right. Well, and also with your particular market, Hampton Roads and just Virginia Beach, you have a massive military presence there. One of the, I guess, the largest in the country. Is that correct?
Largest in the world.
Largest in the world. So you have people coming and going all the time. And in a lot of cases, pretty young too, in life.
Yes.
And so I know just personally, my brother's in the Coast Guard. And so when he's moving around, he will, move across the country, and then his family is coming with him, but he might only have a few days of getting settled before he's gone.
Yeah.
And it's all left to his wife or, and they're pretty young and having to,
I'm going to say that shout out to all the military wives. They are holding it down. They hold it down.
Yeah.
They are.
So, with these systems and everything that you've put into place and that you're helping them walk through, I got to imagine that that's got to be really comforting to them, knowing that there's somebody here that is really kind of looking out for us while I might be, getting set up in my next deployment, or maybe already gone,
Yeah. So I think it's not about the transaction. I mean, it is about the transaction. And if you're talking to me, the transaction's easy. But my big thing is what I like to kind of tone in on. If we've done business together, for me, I take it a little bit personally, right? Like I have a connection with you, right? I felt like I really helped your family. We made the best that the market had to offer at that time. And I kind of look at, as soon as we do a transaction, you're in this informal membership club, right? Where you can call me about anything at any time for whatever reason. Mainly I'm an expert in real estate, and that's what I prefer the call to be about, but anything else is good. We're basically family at this point, right? Because I'm going to be here in Hampton Roads for the long term. So that's kind of how I see it, to touch on like what you were saying.
Yeah. So, like you said, you plan on being in Hampton Roads for the long term. So what is your, what's the future for this year look like? I mean, we're at the very beginning of 2022 and then kind of beyond. What are your plans?
Right. So my plans is obviously talking with you, right? Talking with you, getting the word out that there's trustful, reliable agents out there that have your best interests at heart at all times. right? Right now, I'm rehabbing a dental office, and so I'm in mixed with doing that and getting that started this first quarter of the year, and then at the same time, I'm slowly transitioning out of the military. That should be happening sometime in the middle of this year, and then in between that, I'm going to be servicing my clients.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me this morning, or I guess early afternoon.
Yeah.
I want to thank Andrew for joining us today, and I really like his approach to the industry and what he's doing with VGA's home system model. So once again, if you think you or somebody else on your team has an awesome story or tip to share with our community, send us a message at feedback@smartagents.com. Well, that wraps things up for this episode, but remember, follow the show wherever you listen to podcasts and make sure to subscribe to the Smart Agents YouTube channel. Again, I'm Michael Walter, and we'll see you on the next episode.